I'm going to quickly show you kind of like how we all kind of will run through these teardowns, kind of the thought process behind them. But then I'm going to show you why they're important, which is probably going to be it's going to be that oh my god moment where you realize the importance of all this junk. But I don't know how Google Slides works apparently, so hold on one second. There we go. Alrighty, cool. Shopify teardowns. Let's get into it. So, hello, I'm Chase. You guys are familiar with me. So, what I'm going to talk about here today is how we're going to approach these teardowns. We're going to first look at the look and feel. We're going to look at the numbers behind that. We're going to look at speed. You could argue that's a number, but I feel like it's so important that it needs its own little subsection. And then we're going to talk about the bigger picture of why all this junk matters, right? So let's kind of get into it here. So look and feel. What am I talking about here when I talk about the look and feel of a website? I mean, it's straight up. It's just, how does this thing work? You just watched Nick and Kurt run through websites and rip them apart. Kurt did it on a desktop. That's obviously the way you want to do it. You know, that's kind of the easy part. Just like use the site. Does it make sense? Is there anything glaringly obvious that is broken that needs fixed, right? Those are things you should start to make note of, right? So just while I'm on top of notes, I usually do this as a Loom video. So it's my first impression, which is usually my most honest impression. And you're going to catch that weird stuff. Something you're going to be like, oh, what? That doesn't make sense. But if it's your second or third time using a website, you're instantly going to be used to it. So that's why you got to kind of do it on your first impression and kind of make a video like maybe with Loom or something like that. So getting back into it. So you're going to take a look at the website and you're going to run through the experience. And the way that I like to do it is the same as anyone's user journey. The general flow is going to be the homepage, the collection or category page, depending on what school of thought you're from, the product display page, and then either like your cart or slide out interactions, and then moving actually to the cart in the checkout process. Those are the 5 things that I'm going to do on a desktop, and then I'm going to run it back, baby. We're going to do it on mobile because that's where it gets fun. That's where everything's usually screwed up. So you're just going to do this again. Like Nick said, you can get programs like it was Xcode, I do believe. I know if you have Google Chrome installed, you can use developer tools to manipulate the screen size to make it kind of look like iPhone size or a smartphone size. But yeah, that's just why you do that. And just to answer a question that no one's asked yet, the reason I choose those web pages and I don't care about the about page or your blog is because that's pretty much the typical customer journey on an e-commerce website, like disregarding where the hell they come from marketing purposes. That's pretty much how people are running through a website. So that's what I care about because that's going to affect things that we talk about here in a minute. So after that, let's talk about the numbers real quick and kind of give you a crash course on how kind of e-commerce works. There's 3 king KPIs of e-commerce. There's your traffic, your conversion rate, and your average order values. I pulled these numbers from a website earlier today. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but the 3 that we're going to look at was your traffic, your store sessions here. This is from the back end of everyone's Shopify store has these things. You can pull these. You can get way more granular with like Google Analytics, but just to give you like a quick crash course, like you can pull this from your Shopify admin. So you got your store sessions up here, you got your conversion rate here, and you've got your average order value. Make a note of this number real quick, 38K, right? So why do these numbers matter? It's because, again, if you just look at the 3 main pillars, you know, these 3 main KPIs, if you take all 3 of these numbers and you multiply them together, you're going to get a number that is so close to what that sale was for the month because it's all the averages, right? So I'll do the math for you. The number came out to $43,000. So that was from those numbers I just pulled from that previous website. So right here's their view again. Take those 3 KPIs, smash them together, boom. That's roughly what they did for the last 30 days, right? So sometimes I like to get a little more granular because you can do this in Shopify. And like I said, it gets really fun with the difference between mobile and desktop. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see this online store sessions by device type here in your backend. So you click into there, view the report. You drop down this thing right here, this edit columns, and you add the conversion rate. And then now you can see the disparity between your desktop experience and your mobile experience. This experience is pretty similar because we've helped them out a bit. But sometimes you'll see that it's like 8% on desktop, 2% on mobile, which means that your mobile experience is just god awful. There is something going on in there, kind of points out what's going on. So that's kind of important to kind of keep in mind. So like I said earlier, speed, you can argue it's a number, but I think it's one of the most important numbers. And I think Nick can attest to this as well once I get into it. So with Shopify stores, owners like to tinker. They like to install apps. They like to uninstall apps. They like to leave apps installed and forget about them forever. And then you get a page that has 67 apps like this, right? That's terrible. All of these apps are adding code. They're adding JavaScript calls. They are slowing down your site. You might not notice it as an owner, but it definitely is slowing your site down. You need to be very, very cognizant of what apps you have installed. They need to have a necessary purpose, and they need to be making you money at the end of the day. So that's something I like to point out on the Shopify side. But if you want to kind of take a look at your speed, and I'll give you a reason why you want to do this, obviously, built into Google Chrome. They've got this Lighthouse report that'll generate your speed. I like this way better than Google Page Speed. So this will give you kind of an unbiased view, but shout out to Joe over at Speed Booster. I really like his Analyze application here because it's built for Shopify, and it will break it down and kind of give you some grades here and give you some stuff to look at. This one, obviously, the images are oversized. They need to optimize their images is like the real quick win here. So the reason that matters is a 2% conversion increase for every 1 second decrease in your page speed load. So that's a mouthful. Essentially what it means, faster your website is, the higher your conversion rate is. There's data behind that fact. So moving on to the bigger picture, why in the heck does this matter, right? So let's go back to those 3 KPIs we were talking about. You got your traffic, your conversion rate, your average order value. All this stuff that we looked at while tearing down this site and all these opportunities or oddities that we found that we're going to play around with, all that's doing is affecting kind of your customer experience or user experience, UX, whatever you want to call it. All of those changes are going to affect mostly the conversion rate. It's probably going to have nothing to do with traffic. You could argue maybe a little bit. Some UX changes can affect average order value, but just for the sake of simplicity and what we're doing here, we're going to say that all these changes that we made are affecting this conversion rate, right? So let's go back to the historical data I just pulled from that example from earlier. Here's the old stuff, right? So 17,000 roughly traffic, a 2% conversion rate at a $125 average order value came out to 43,000 some change. So let's see what happens if we did all these changes and we made the website that much better, and it raised the blended conversion rate from 2% to 3% because of all this effort we put in on the user experience. That's going to bring it out to $64,000 a month with no additional traffic, nothing done to the average order value. It's just an existing site with the existing traffic sources. They just made $20,000 more a month, $21,545 to be exact, which comes out to an additional $250,000 a year. And this is just from taking the time and optimizing your user experience. I know I could use an extra $250,000. Could you? Anyways, I'm Chase, and that's kind of my talk.